Alright guys, I just got back from watching The Amazing Spider-Man, and I really liked the movie. I thought it was much better than I expected it to be going in. But one of my main complaints about this is if you plan to see it, expect there to be a ton of kids in the theater. I expected some, but this was ridiculous. We saw it around 5 o'clock, and there was just a ton of kids talking. We were sitting in the back, and these two kids came and sat next to us. Their parents just let them walk around the theater and go bother other people. And they just sat next to us and talked the whole time. Really hurt the first half of the movie for me. They got up to go, I guess, to the bathroom, and I was like, thank God they're gone, and then they came right back and sat next to us. It was just shit. Really, really annoyed me the entire time. But as far as the movie itself goes, I thought they did a really good job with this. Spider-Man was actually pretty likable. I was kind of on the fence about it. There are some changes. However, I have to say that I enjoyed those. It's kind of bittersweet. Yes, it strays from the comic books, but it actually ends up working for the movie because I would rather see something different than just a regular reboot and the same old stuff. So I kind of like that a little bit. I really hope that they sign this guy to like a 4-movie contract or something. Because it really sucks when you have these guys and then they just get tired. The director, let's make it 3 movies and end it before stuff really picks up. That's what I was kind of disappointed about with the last trilogy. It ended with Venom, and it was kind of a half-assed Venom. And if they had a 4th movie, they could have really done something cool with it. And so I'm really hoping that when they do these movies, they sign them to like 4 movies at least contracts. I mean, I don't know why they don't do that. When you have movies like The Punisher, and the guy just quits after the first one, it's like, okay, here, you can be the Punisher, and then he never wants to come back for a sequel. That just really kills it when it's not the same character. So I hope they start doing that from now on. Like, Robert Downey Jr. is awesome as Iron Man, and I'm sure they signed him to a certain amount of movies, and I just hope they continue to do that. But this movie, you all know from the trailers, the villain is the Lizard, and that's fine. I really hope they set up something in the sequel, though, for Venom, and possibly Carnage in the 3rd. I mean, just give us Carnage. That's what we want. That's what we've always wanted, is a movie with Venom that's good, and then leads into Carnage. And, I mean, I can talk a little bit more about that later, but alright, so I have to just say that the movie was good, and I think if you're a fan of Spider-Man or action movies, or you like the first 3 movies, or at least the first one, then you will definitely like this movie, I think. I thought they did a great job with it. Dennis Leary was awesome. But yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and get right into the movie. So if you don't want spoilers, turn this video off now, because I will just be giving some out as I go, and telling you what happens during the credits at the very end, too. So, on to the movie. The first thing about this is, instead of he's bitten by a radioactive spider at some field trip thing, it starts off and he's a little boy, and his dad rushes him and his mother over to his Uncle Ben and Aunt May. And he says, can you watch Peter for a while? We have to go do something. And we see in his father's room, he's got spiders, and he's got all this stuff. His dad created the radioactive spider. So that's the first thing. A friend of mine told me that's more of the Ultimate comic stuff. I don't know crap about that, and I really don't care about the Ultimates universe. So I have no idea. I just thought it was something different, and at first I was kind of like, what the hell? But then I was like, well, it's different, it's new. So he leaves him with his Uncle Ben, and Peter finds a bag. As a teenager, however old he is, he finds a bag in the garage that belonged to his father, and he finds out that his dad was working on this stuff. And he was good friends with a man named Curt Connors, who we know is the Lizard. So he decides to go start talking to Curt Connors, who works for Oscorp, and finding out a little bit more about his dad. And in the process of doing this, he goes to see him at Oscorp, and he gets bit by the spider there. So he starts turning into Spider-Man. We get some cool fight scenes with him on the subway. There's no Mary Jane in this movie. Instead, it's Gwen Stacy, which I thought was another cool thing they added. But you still have Flash and all those guys. But he ends up getting into a fight with Uncle Ben. He goes to a gas station. There's no scene where he becomes a wrestler, but he goes to a gas station. He doesn't stop the guy because the guy running the register is kind of a dickhead, and I completely understand why I didn't help this guy. But he gets robbed, and he doesn't help, so Uncle Ben tries to help and gets shot. He dies, and Peter Parker goes on this manhunt to find the criminal who shot Uncle Ben. So he's going through the city and he's beating up all these guys who have like shoulder-length blonde hair. But he always checks the wrist for the tattoo that the robber had that shot Uncle Ben and then never have it. In fact, in this entire movie, he never actually catches the criminal that shot Uncle Ben. It doesn't happen. So I guess they're going to wait and do that for the sequel or something like that. I mean, they really wanted to change it from the first trilogy, so I kind of understand it, but... So Gwen Stacy's father is the captain of the New York police, Denis Leary, and he was awesome. He did a great job with this character. But Peter, since he's dating her, goes to her house for supper and talks to Denis Leary. He says the whole thing. I think Spider-Man's not a bad guy. He's actually doing good. And Denis Leary actually tells him, well, he's going around beating up all these guys that look the same. Well, couldn't they have just looked at people who would have a vendetta against this, like local things that just happened, and find out that Peter had his uncle killed by a man and would be a suspect maybe? I don't know. It just struck me as odd. And also in this movie, which is different from the original trilogy, is he builds the web shooters. He doesn't just shoot webs out of his ass. He actually has to build the web shooters. So I like that. And Curt Connors has to inject himself to fix his missing arm because Oscorp thinks that he needs to start doing human testing. He refuses, so they're taking all his work away. So he injects himself. He turns into the Lizard. We got a lot of great fight scenes with this. I thought the Lizard looked really cool. I'm always going to be one of those guys who remembers the Lizard with the purple pants and the white lab coat from the 90s cartoon series, the animated Spider-Man series. That's what I'm always going to remember the Lizard as. But I thought for this movie, you know, they have to update stuff. I get that. And I thought he looked really cool. He was a great Lizard villain. He kind of goes mad from injecting himself and turning into a reptile all the time. So he starts to talk to himself. But Spider-Man fights him a few times. He finds out he's Peter Parker. Gwen Stacy knows he's Spider-Man. Aunt May, I think, at the end finds out he's Spider-Man, and Denis Leary knows he's Spider-Man, so it's not like a big secret throughout this movie. But he does convince Denis Leary to help him escape so that he can go save his daughter, because the Lizard has some kind of scheme where he wants to turn everybody in the city into lizard people. So he's climbing up the Oscorp Tower like King Kong, and Denis Leary lets Spider-Man go after him. He actually shows up to help him and gets killed by the Lizard. So that was kind of sad, like Denis Leary dying. He makes Spider-Man promise to not see Gwen anymore because the city needs him, but he's going to put people in danger. People close to him. So he has him make this promise, and Spider-Man shuts off the bomb. The Lizard turns back into Curt Connors, who actually tries to save Spider-Man's life, pulls him up, and he gets arrested and thrown in jail. So they stop the Lizard, Denis Leary dies, and Spider-Man says he's not going to see Gwen anymore. However, we see him at school, and he says he's late for class, and the teacher says, and he says, I'll never be late again. And she says, don't make promises you can't keep, and he looks at Gwen and says, those are the best kind. So they're definitely going to keep continuing their relationship. It is weird for it not to be Mary Jane. If you have read the comic books, Gwen Stacy does die. So that was interesting. And that was the end of the movie. And then during the credits, we get this scene of the Lizard in jail. And we see a figure, but we don't see who it is. And this is another part where those damn kids just wouldn't shut the hell up, so I can't even remember exactly what he said, but something along the lines of, does he know about his father yet? And the Lizard says, no, not everything. And that was it. Now, I assume the shadowy figure is Norman Osborn. But I do know they also want to use new villains for this movie, and a friend of mine said that in the Ultimates universe, Peter Parker's father worked with Eddie Brock's father, who becomes Venom, or something along those lines. So this has me excited that they will do Venom in the sequel and then Carnage in the trilogy. Please just give us what we want. That's all I'm hoping for. So yeah, I'm very excited to see where they go. There's still a ton of awesome villains though. I mean, they could bring in the Rhino, just tons of people. Scorpion, the Shocker. So they could do a ton of things with this series, and I really thought it was good. I like this guy as Spider-Man. I thought he did a great job. And the movie's really fun. If you like Spider-Man, you want to see a fun Spider-Man movie, check out The Amazing Spider-Man. It's worth it. So yeah, I'm excited to see where they go with this, and I like this reboot, the restart of this entire thing. So I thought it was pretty cool. That's my review of The Amazing Spider-Man. I hope you guys liked this video. Leave your thoughts on the movie in the comments below, and thanks for watching.